Donald Trump's top generals and admirals gave him an urgent warning that the United States was not able to handle an escalation in the war. And if Donald Trump indeed escalated, it would put the United States in a awful, existential situation. New York Times ran a story about this, but it's much worse than the New York Times is reporting. And if you piece together the reporting that we've been doing over the past week at the MeidasTouch Network before the New York Times latest expose about what's going on behind the scenes, you'll see that this is a very grave situation. And what this warning to Donald Trump was about was actually World War III and the fact that the United States does not have the munitions not only to escalate in Iran, but this escalation would likely draw in Russia and China in a meaningful way. And if Russia and China were drawn in right now, the U.S. not only doesn't have the Patriot interceptors, the radar systems, and so much of the other necessary military equipment, but it could result in the United States losing on a scale that would be such a nightmare situation that it caused Donald Trump, at least for the time being, to pause what was going to be an escalation. Let's talk about what's going on here. I mean, a few days back, I did this report on YouTube. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs gives warning on Trump losing the war. And I was talking about how in Dan Kane, he's the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, public testimony before the United States Senate, he was making indications that the United States was running low on munitions. But I was describing what I was hearing from my sources and also what you can read between the lines of what he was saying. And if you looked at the satellite footage that was coming in from China and other sources of the U.S. bases in the region that I've been showing you, the U.S. base in Jordan, the U.S. base in Kuwait, Al Udeid in Qatar, which was abandoned by the United States. I was showing you the base in Bahrain, the Fifth Fleet. I was showing you some of the bases in the UAE. Iran's been just destroying these bases. And we have a full list right now of what we believe were all of the U.S. assets destroyed. I'll go over with that in a second, but it is bad. I mean, Iran's been surgically and with precision just destroying American military equipment and these early radar systems, and it is just a dire situation. And all of these PAC-3 Patriot interceptors and THAAD interceptors, which cost $3 to $5 million each, we've run very low on those munitions. I'll get into it. But so there was that video I did a few days back before the New York Times did their report. And I was saying that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Dan Kane, who, by the way, was not a qualified guy for that job. Remember, the United States fired C.Q. Brown Jr., who was qualified because Pete Hegseth is racist and he fires black people and women. Let's just call it what it is. So C.Q. Brown Jr. was pushed aside for a 3-star general in Kane who had to get a waiver for the job, whereas C.Q. Brown was 4-star, top of the top. Okay, so there's that story. Then there was the statement from Wang Yi, the Chinese foreign minister, who was speaking with his counterpart in Iran, Foreign Minister Araghchi. And following that meeting, Wang Yi, the foreign minister of China, said that there was going to be major support, more additional support, China to Iran, that China stands in solidarity with its strategic partner, Iran. And China put out that very powerful statement that Iran's an ally. They're our strategic partner militarily, economic, politically. They've said that before, but it was an important statement. And I said, it's not getting nearly enough attention. But that was one of the reasons also that we saw the United States not strike as hard as they claimed they were going to strike a few days back. And that was because I said China is stepping into the fray, and China's like, China's been instrumental in somewhat keeping the oil prices from going up to $200 a barrel, and because they've kept significant reserves and they've been buying in a way that wouldn't just destroy the oil markets. I could get more technical than that, but for this video, we'll leave it at that. And so China said, enough is enough. We're going to get involved in this war. It was more than just the Wang Yi statement. We're going to get involved in this war in a big way if you escalate massively, Donald. So be warned. And you don't have the ability to help Taiwan anymore. You don't have the ability to help South Korea or Japan anymore. We know you don't. We know you're bluffing. So cut the shit, Donald, is basically what Wang Yi, China's foreign ministry, said on behalf of Xi Jinping. And also Russia's been communicating similar messages. I've been covering Ukraine strikes into St. Petersburg, the Wild Berries facilities, those logistical centers inside Russia and St. Petersburg. There was one in the Moscow region. There was another one in Crimea. I've been showing you the Ukrainian strikes on a lot of the cargo ships and boats in the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov as well. But what I think was also, I've been describing as well is I've been trying to also say, look, it's not just Ukraine hitting Russia. Russia's hitting Ukraine hard as well, both in the cities and hitting Ukrainian ships and transportation and other aspects as well. And I said, this escalation that's going on between Ukraine and Russia, pay attention to it. We should always be paying attention to it. And then you have the Caspian Sea, right? So you have on one side, you have Sea of Azov, Black Sea, right? On the other side, you have Caspian Sea, which has been used by Russia, obviously, to bring weapons and supplies to Iran and for Iran to give weapons and supplies to Russia. Iran gives a lot of these Shahed drones to Russia. Now, in the past 24 hours, Zelensky was able to strike a Iranian ship, which Iran claims was a commercial ship. There are lots of people believe that was weapons going to and from Russia and Iran. And so the Ukrainian strike on the Iranian ship in the Caspian Sea, which Iran then addressed, look, we know, let me be clear too. Iran is giving its Shahed drones to Russia. Those drones are being used against Ukraine. It's why I said, pay attention to Iranian engineering. There's a reason why Russia is buying all of its supplies from Iran. Do not underestimate Iran's engineering. They're top engineering in the world. But this fused the wars, right? It fused the Middle East wars with the Russia invasion of Ukraine and the Russia-Ukraine war. And so you bring these two wars together with that strike of the Iranian ship. Iran says, we're going to now attack Ukraine. China's saying it's being drawn into the war. Obviously, Russia is invading Ukraine. So what do you have here? Also, you have UK bases now are being used since the switch of their prime minister. And I think much to the dismay of a lot of people in UK, from what I hear from all of the people who watch from the UK, like, seriously, we're giving bases to the, you're now going to put a target on the UK. We don't want to be helping the United States in any war crimes at all. What the hell is going on there? And then Iran says, okay, well, that's a fair target in the UK. So what was coming together and what was spiraling, because, Iran's been targeting Bahrain, all these areas, Qatar, UAE, Kuwait, Jordan, is you now had the entire world in a war. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, but the issue is, and what I believe the generals and the admirals were warning Trump is, not only do you not have the munitions to escalate much further in Iran, but now that this has become a world war in scope, and again, I'm not being hyperbolic, the world has been drawn in. If China is drawn in, if Russia is drawn in, then you're absolutely screwed. And if all of a sudden the United States home front is now becoming a place that could be targeted, by the way in Moscow, right? Their facilities are being hit. The way in Kyiv, they're being hit. The warning Zelensky gave to Donald Trump in February of 2025. You may think you're separated by waters, but one day you may need help and you're not going to know what to do. Remember those prophetic words that I showed you? That to me is the warning that I don't think anyone wants us to know about, because it's so existential and such a scary thought that this world war is basically happening. And if I articulate, people go, oh, you're being so hyperbolic, you're just saying world. No. That's what's at stake right here. And I believe the warning was much bigger than just escalating in Iran, which is bad. We shouldn't. These are war crimes that Trump and Netanyahu are involved in. This is a catastrophic and unlawful war that most Americans, including MAGA people, but most Americans don't want to be involved in at all. But they're saying you escalate, you don't have enough munitions to even fight a war against Iran, and you've run out of munitions now if China and Russia get involved, and they're going to get involved because now with the strike of the Iranian ship in the Caspian Sea that was destroyed and Iranians were killed, whether it was truly a commercial ship or a military ship, Iran's now looking at Ukraine. China's coming in now on the side of Iran. Russia is, obviously allied with Iran. Russia's speaking with North Korea. North Korea is doing a lot of ballistic missile and cruise missile tests right now. Russia's got its ships around Japan for a reason. China's got its ships around Australia. These are all objective, undisputed facts. Let's take a look right now so you can see for yourself the type of damage that's been done to the United States military arsenal. And most of this stuff has been geolocated on surveillance footage. The U.S. has suppressed surveillance footage from Planet Labs and other areas that do the satellite surveillance footage for private use. That's those overhead, those Google Earth type stuff, but these satellite photos. The U.S. also banned the European Union, or asked the European Union to stop its companies and its assets from utilizing its satellite footage. So a lot of this comes from China and Russia. You still get it from other places. And Iran said, look, here's what we hit, and here's what we can prove that we hit. 47 radar and air defense systems, 44 support and logistics systems, 48 operational infrastructure like those containerized housing and barracks, 49 aircraft and aerial assets. You take a look at this list. Radar and defense systems, 7 command and control centers, 3 satellite communication systems, 6 Patriot air defense radars, 3 air and maritime surveillance control radars, 8 detection and early warning radar systems, 7 air and missile defense radars, 3 EPS radar systems, 2 EPS 117 radars, 5 long range 117 radars, 5 long range radars, 2 air defense radars, 1 tactical radar complex. Now support and logistics facilities. 6 fighter, jet, and helicopter maintenance centers, 3 support and logistics centers. These are all U.S. military facilities and equipment. 12 fuel storage tanks, 17 warehouses storing weapons, spare parts, naval equipment, and aircraft components, 6 missile storage depots, operational infrastructure, 6 MQ drone hangars, 1 F-15 fighter preparation hangar, 1 drone hangar containing 8 factory new drones, 2 command centers, 1 aircraft carrier refueling platform, 1 P-8 aircraft hangar, 4 HIMAR missile launchers, 5 fighter aircraft hangars, 4 Patriot air defense complexes, 6 missile launch platforms, 1 fuel pumping station, 2 signal communication centers, 1 intelligence data center, 1 artificial intelligence and data processing facility associated with Amazon, 1 depot for remotely operated unmanned surface vessels, 1 fuel pier, 4 fighter aircraft shelters, 6 aircraft parking and operating ramps. And in terms of aircraft and aerial assets, 11 fighter aircraft and helicopters destroyed or damaged on the ground, 17 reconnaissance and operational drones, including 8 factory new aircraft, 1 F-15 fighter jet, 1 P-8 maritime patrol aircraft, 1 C-17 transport aircraft, 8 aerial refueling aircraft, 4 heavy helicopters, 6 stored missiles, in the past 2 weeks. All of that in the past 2 weeks. And you can take a look at that, and 85 to 90% you can locate and geo-target and geolocate on the surveillance footage, on the satellite footage that we've been showing you.
One thing I've definitely noticed as I've gotten older is that you wake up one day, look in the mirror, and think, what's going on? Why do I look like this? Your skin just doesn't look as healthy as it used to. Maybe you've got more dark spots from the years in the sun. Maybe your skin looks rougher, less even, or just older than you feel. That's what led me to GIYU. That's spelled J-I-Y-U. What I like is that they make skincare incredibly simple. No 10-step routine, no spending 20 minutes in the bathroom. They're best known for their rejuvenation toner pads. These aren't your ordinary toner pads. pads. Think of them as more like an entire Korean skincare routine packed into a single swipe. It takes about 10 seconds, which is about the maximum amount of effort that I'm willing to put into skincare. Wipe your face and move on with your day. I've been using them and I've genuinely noticed my skin looks healthier, smoother, and less tired. It just looks more refreshed. And that's exactly what I was hoping for. GU is designed to help improve the appearance of dark spots, acne scars, uneven skin tone, discoloration, fine lines, wrinkles, and rough texture. It's basically the low-effort way to look more refreshed, more confident, and a little less worn down. A great way to cover up after a night of bad decisions. If you're trying GU for the first time, I'd recommend the Glow Up Bundle. It includes their best-selling toner polishing pads and moisturizer. It's dermatologist tested, trusted by over 650,000 customers, and comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee. For a limited time, GU is having a crazy deal for our listeners. Their Glow Up Bundle is already up to 45% off right now, but our listeners can get an additional 20% off plus free shipping with our code MIDAS, that's MEIDAS, at GUSkin.com. JIYUSkin.com. That's JIYUSkin.com, and use code MIDAS, MEIDAS, for an additional 20% off. After you purchase, they will ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you.
And by the way, you have IRGC spokesperson Brigadier General Hussein Muhabi. He told Tasneem in a podcast basically that. And they went through it one by one by one by one. And we've been showing you, and these are in the bases in Bahrain and Qatar and Syria and Erbil in Iraq and Jordan and all of these areas that we've been covering. That took place, folks, in 2 weeks. So don't tell me, oh, this war's costed $37 billion. No, hundreds of billions of dollars in military equipment has been lost, and probably over $50 billion in the past 2 weeks alone. And those early radar detection systems, if you now were to escalate and Iran has its ballistic missiles and its Shaheeds, which it does, Iran would be able to strike the U.S. bases with impunity, and all of our service members are sitting targets in these containerized barracks at this point. And if Iran wanted to wipe out these containerized barracks, they could. They could inflict, if they wanted to right now, tens of thousands of casualties on service members. They're not doing it because they know that they've got momentum on their side. Why would they want to rally U.S. public sentiment against them right now when most people in the U.S. are against the war? They know that between their control of Hormuz Strait, Bab el-Mandab through the Houthis at this point, that they're positioned, and Donald in a way that's strong, way stronger than Trump is right now and way stronger than the U.S. is, that time is on their side, not on the U.S. side. Iran was able to get out billions and billions of dollars worth of oil during the ceasefire. They were able to rebuild. They had a plan while Donald Trump was out there acting like a maniac. And so they have the ability to go on right now 18 months, 2 years, at least, and they've got the support of China, and they're working with Russia. And so that's what the warning was from Dan Raisin Kane. It was bigger than what's being reported in the New York Times, which is still big in and of itself. I mean, the headline from the New York Times, Trump holds off on major escalation against Iran as advisors raise concerns. Among the worries is that expanded hostilities could dangerously drain and diminish could dangerously drain the diminished stockpile of air defense munitions. It goes on to say how Dan Raisin Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, told Donald Trump, look, we're alienating our Gulf allies right now already because we're showing that the U.S. security umbrella doesn't work, and Iran's able to strike them with impunity right now, and their economies are suffering right now. I mean, look what you're doing to Saudi Arabia. Also, the Houthis hit those two major oil refineries, the Aramco oil refineries in Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia's like, let's, maybe we could talk, maybe we can do a deal as well. You have The top military officials warning Trump about the shrinking inventory of Patriot interceptors and other air defenses, which I just laid out for you, the full nature and extent of that. And I may be downplaying some. There may be even more than what's been reported right there. And so, as I said, though, the broader issue is China, Russia being drawn in. We already have the Ukrainian strike on the Iranian ship. The wars are merging, and the U.S. isn't able to fight a world war. And our homeland is defenseless. And what happens if China strikes Taiwan? What happens what happens if China, if there is a world war, what happens to the Southeast Asian countries? The U.S. security umbrella is shattered. The Iranian Khyber-Shekin ballistic missile right now is proving to be also incredibly effective. U.S. officials also warning Donald Trump, hey, these Khyber-Shekin missiles right now by the Iranians are cheaper to make, and they're able to also evade the remaining interceptors that we have. IRG, whether this is actually happening or a bluff, but IRGC potentially, according to the Telegraph, is IRGC positioning people inside the UK now that their air bases are being used to help the United States. And by the way, the intelligence coming out of Israel from the Mossad and from all of their media in Israel is that Trump's genuinely afraid to ramp up strikes because, and who knows, he's a maniac, so he may end up doing it anyway, but because the U.S. ran out of munitions. So Al-Mayed, all these other networks over here, like Al-Mayadeen, talking about how Trump will not, according to Israeli media like Israeli Channel 12 and 14 and others, Trump will not escalate with Iran soon because the Iranians destroyed a significant portion of the defense system in the Gulf. And fears of further escalation led Trump to refrain from expanding the military campaign. But now I do want to mention this. Israel broadcaster News 12 reports that Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel is scheduled to meet with Donald Trump in Washington on Tuesday, where Netanyahu is expected to present intelligence claiming Iran is once again racing towards nuclear weapons and accelerating its actions. Now, with all of the background that I am giving you, what's the Department of Defense posting? I mean, they're posting, just the dumbest, most infantile, elementary, ineffective propaganda. They're posting photos of U.S. drones, which the U.S. drones, called the Lucas drones, kind of copy the Shaheeds. That's how effective the Shaheeds are, is that the U.S. ones copy the Shaheeds. And then the Department of War goes, the War Department doesn't miss. To which Professor Marandi of the Iranian negotiating team, a professor in Tehran, he posts the photos of all of the little girls the United States slaughtered at the Manab Elementary School and says, we know. So, we know. With that as background, I want to share this video with you. This was Donald Trump during all of his campaigns where he said, I'm not going to get the U.S. into World War III. I'm not going to get the U.S. into World War III, but basically drew us into a World War III. Here, play this clip.
These globalists want to squander all of America's strength, blood, and treasure, chasing monsters and phantoms overseas. In addition, there must also be a complete commitment to dismantling the entire globalist neocon establishment that is perpetually dragging us into endless wars, pretending to fight for freedom and democracy abroad.
We should have never gone into the Middle East. Under my leadership, we will turn the page forever on those foolish, stupid days of never-ending wars.
We're rebuilding our military stronger than ever before, and we are not going to deplete it again on stupid, senseless, endless wars. World War III has never been closer than it is right now. We need to clean house of all of the warmongers and America last globalists in the deep state. I am the president who delivers peace.
I was the first president in decades who didn't start a war.
And the worst, most incompetent, most corrupt president in history is going to drag us into World War III.
And then to remind you, during the hearing, when Pete Hegseth was asking for more money of the United States Senate, Republican Senator Hoeven asked him, "Are Russia and China helping Iran?" Here, play this clip.
Important and will make a big difference for our farmers right now. So thank you for that. Secretary Hegseth, are Russia and China helping Iran? And if so, how?
Well, Senator, as the chairman alluded to, there's definitely adversary alignment, attempts to do so, and there are many ways that we deter that, some of which are, and the depth and extent of it ought to remain classified, and it should, but there are ways in which both of those countries are limiting at different levels, enabling some of the things Iran is doing. Yes.
General Kane, would you like to add?
Sir, I'd rather not opine on the specifics because that would divulge what we know, and I never want the adversary to know what I know. I just want to know it.
And hopefully we'll get a chance to do that in the skiff.
Yes, sir. Happy to do that in the skiff, sir.
And then Ducey on Friday, notably, right, because that's finally when Donald Trump didn't escalate when everyone thought he was going to escalate for all of the reasons that I'm telling you right now, said, you said today Russia and China are not helping, but earlier this week, Hegseth said that they are. Here, play this clip.
And you said today that Russia and China are not helping. Earlier this week, the War Secretary Hegseth said that they are enabling. So what is the difference?
Well, I don't know that they're enabling. I mean, I will tell you that President Xi said he will not partake, and President Putin said the same thing. I think, I trust them. They've had a long-term relationship. There could be some things they do, but thus far, at least, it has not been major. I don't think they'd want to have me disappointed.
And there's a different story, not Iran.
And the reality is that they are. They are publicly allied with Iran, and that's the access. And while Donald Trump is out there attacking Canada and NATO and saying all of these horrible things about the U.S. allies, while also threatening to escalate and have more crimes in Iran, Trump has created the conditions for essentially a World War III, to which his top military people are saying, dude, look what you started. And we've run out of munitions. We run out of munitions in Iran, and if this escalates, if China joins and Russia joins, we're done. We're cooked. That's how serious the situation is. It's not being reported like that anywhere else. We'll find out that just like we've been accurate each of these reports, we'll see. You'll see that this is the intelligence that he's getting. I have no doubt about it. Well, you tell me what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Hey, if you want the full story, how democracy got here and how we take it back, pre-order our new book, WTF America, today. Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description. Let's do this.